the unwashed queen, Isabella of Castile, and the myth of sanctified suffering. The chapel bells toll through the shadowed corridors of the Alcázar of Segovia, their bronze clamour summoning the faithful to dawn prayers. It is 1491, and you are a lady in waiting to Isabella I of Castile, the indomitable queen whose will binds Spain's fractured kingdoms. Your bare feet skim the icy marble as you hasten through the palace. The air carries the heavy scent of incense, but beneath it lurks something fouler, a sour, organic stench that clenches your stomach. You pause outside the royal chambers, the queen's voice seeping through the oaken doors. Her prayers, a torrent of fervent Latin, weave through the stillness, accompanied by the soft clink of rosary beads slipping through her fingers. You enter, and there she kneels before a towering crucifix, clad in the same white linen shift she donned 3 months ago when Granada's walls crumbled to Christian might. Once pristine as new-fallen snow, the fabric now clings to her frame, marred by yellowed sweat, brown bloodstains from her self-inflicted wounds, and darker marks that defy contemplation. The odor strikes like a fist frankincense, warring with the reek of unwashed flesh, a miasma. You place the basin carefully, wary of disturbing her devotions, for to do so risks her wrath, perhaps even the dungeon. But as you draw near, a chilling sight stops you. Tiny black specks crawling across the stained linen. Fleas, dozens of them, thriving in the folds of her garment, a living testament to her unyielding piety. Before we unravel this tale of devotion and degradation, pause to consider the hidden corners of history, stories of survival and suffering that linger in the shadows of the past. If these forgotten truths stir your curiosity, join us in exploring the mysteries of ages gone by. Share your thoughts below. Where are you watching from? This story, though vivid, teeters on the edge of truth and myth. For centuries, a peculiar legend has haunted the legacy of Isabella I of Castile, the queen who forged a nation and sent Christopher Columbus across the seas. It is said she vowed never to change her undergarments until Granada, the last Muslim stronghold in Spain, fell to her forces in 8 months. Some tales stretch the vow to a decade. Others whisper it belonged to a later Habsburg queen, steeped in religious extremism. The details shift like mirages, but the image endures, a queen of unparalleled power, cloaked in filth that would make a beggar flinch. Historians now dismiss this tale as propaganda, crafted to either canonize Isabella as a martyr or condemn her as a zealot. Yet its persistence across 5 centuries reveals a deeper truth about her world, a realm where holiness and horror blurred, where the sacred and the profane danced in uneasy intimacy. To grasp why this myth resonates, we must plunge into the medieval psyche, where dirt was divine, cleanliness was suspect, and power was forged in the crucible of suffering. A world of sanctified filth. Spain in 1491 stood at a crossroads, its Christian kingdoms locked in a 7th-century struggle to reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule, a campaign known as the Reconquista. Isabella's conquest of Granada in 1492 would mark its triumphant end. But this was more than a war of swords. It was a clash of cultures, shaping everything from warfare to the most hammams, opulent bathhouses with steaming pools and intricate aqueducts, dotted cities like Granada. Muslims bathed 5 times daily before prayers, their faith proclaiming cleanliness as half of devotion. These bathhouses were not mere utilities but social sanctuaries, where men and women separated by time lingered in heated waters, their laughter mingling with the scent of jasmine and myrrh. Contrast this with Christian Spain, where bathing was a church doctrine branded public baths as dens of vice, where naked bodies mingled in steamy shadows, dissolving the sacred boundaries of gender and class. Worse, bathing was tied to Islam and Judaism faiths deemed heretical. St. Jerome's ancient decree, "He who is bathed in Christ has no need of a second bath," became a mantra for centuries of Christian filth. To wash was to risk demonic invasion. The devout, it was believed, should smell of martyrdom, blood, sweat, and sacred suffering. Isabella was born into this world in 1451, in Madrigal de las Altas Torres, daughter of John II of Castile and Isabella of Portugal. Her childhood was a tapestry of civil war and courtly intrigue, where survival trumped hygiene. The royal court was a travelling chaos of thousands nobles, servants, guards, horses, and hounds sweeping from castle to castle. Imagine the great halls, unwashed bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder, chamber pots brimming, food scraps rotting underfoot, horses fouling the courtyards. This was the air Isabella breathed. In 1468, at 17, she witnessed a plague outbreak at the Alcázar of Segovia. The Black Death, a spectre that had haunted Europe for a century, struck with merciless precision. Rats staggered from the walls, their bodies oozing blood and pus. Fleas followed, swarming in desperate hunger as their hosts perished. Soon, humans fell fevered, shivering, their lymph nodes swelling into grotesque buboes. Court physicians, their beaked masks stuffed with herbs, could only prescribe bleeding and prayers, but death was relentless. Isabella noticed a curious pattern. The filthiest survived. Kitchen servants, caked in grease, and stable boys, reeking of manure, stood. This was no scientific truth, but a coincidence that cemented her belief. Cleanliness invited death, while filth was God's armor. In a world where faith trumped reason, this seemed divine wisdom. The theology of suffering. The late 15th century was a crucible of mysticism in Spanish Christianity. Saints like Catherine of Siena, who drank pus from plague sores, and Francis, theirs was a theology that saw the body as a sinful cage, to be mortified through neglect and pain. To wash or adorn it was vanity, a betrayal of the soul's quest for salvation. Isabella embraced this with fervor. Thrice weekly, she retreated to her private chapel, stripped to the waist, and wielded a knotted whip. Blood streamed down her back, mingling with weeks of sweat and grime, each lash a prayer, each wound a step closer to Christ's suffering. Her linen shift, soaked in these offerings, became more than clothing, it was a relic, imbued with her spiritual essence. The longer it clung to her unwashed skin, the holier it grew. The myth of her underwear vow centers on the siege of Granada, begun in April 1491. This was the Reconquista's final act, a test of faith against the Muslim emirate. Legend claims Isabella swore before Córdoba's cathedral altar to wear the same shift until Granada fell. Such vows were common, binding the faithful to God with promises of hardship. The siege, a grueling 8-month ordeal, saw Isabella and Ferdinand build Santa Fe, a city of stone and faith, to choke Granada into submission. The Spanish sun blazed, dust and smoke choked the air, and the queen, gaunt, hollow-eyed, prayed before a portable altar, her shift growing stiff with filth. Visitors described her odor as oddly compelling. The fleas that supposedly infested her garments were not mere pests but agents of divine trial, their bites a test of endurance. Medieval medicine, rooted in humoral theory, held that washing disrupted the body's natural balance, inviting illness. Isabella's refusal to bathe aligned with this logic, her visions of saints and paranoia about betrayal hinting at across Spain, holy women like Maria de Santo Domingo, who shunned washing for decades, and Catalina de Cardona, whose hair shirt stood rigid with grime, were celebrated. The Spanish Inquisition, founded by Isabella in 1478, equated cleanliness with heresy, suspecting bathers of crypto-Islamic or Jewish tendencies. Physicians warned that washing weakened the skin's protective barrier, a belief reinforced by the skin ailments of the clean elite. Linen, the fabric of her shift, held mystical power. Unlike animal-derived wool, plant-based linen was pure, the stuff of burial shrouds and angelic robes. Worn long enough, it absorbed the wearer's essence, becoming a sacred talisman. Isabella's court venerated such relics, kissed and touched for their healing grace. Her shift, if the myth held, would have been a treasure of Christendom. Each itch, each festering sore, was a prayer, a reminder of her covenant with God. Yet it isolated her, her stench repelling all but the most loyal. Fleas, seen as demonic emissaries, made her body a battlefield of faith. Her endurance was proof of sanctity, her suffering a crown. A court of odor and influence, Isabella's choices rippled through her court. If she shunned hygiene, so did her nobles. Foreign ambassadors, like Venice's Pietro Martire d'Enghien, wrote of the court's overpowering stench, a challenge to both spirit and stomach. This culture of neglect bred disease, skin infections, parasites, and plague, yet it was seen as holy. Fleas, carriers of the Black Death, made Isabella's alleged state a public health risk, though her survival suggests luck or resilience. When Granada fell in January 1492, legend says Isabella, the Reconquista complete, she turned to Columbus's voyage, her fervor reshaping the world. Her filth, paradoxically, underscored her power. In a male-dominated realm, her deliberate degradation making her body repulsive, shielded her from being reduced to a mere woman. By embracing dirt, she claimed authority, her unwashed state a testament to her dominion, a legacy of myth and meaning. The myth of Isabella's vow reflects medieval anxieties about her body, seen as inherently sinful, became a canvas for sanctity through neglect. This tale, whether true or not, opens a window into a world where suffering was divine, where cleanliness was vanity, and yet in the palace's shadows, the ghost of Isabella lingers, the rustle of linen, the murmur of prayers, the queen who found salvation in suffering. Her story, myth or truth, reminds us that history is not just battles and crowns but the raw, human struggle of bodies bound by belief, enduring in a world